last 3 WrestleMania outings, she has managed to leave WrestleMania every time with the championship. We're talking about Bianca Belair, and we're going to do a rundown of everything that happened in WrestleMania week. So stay tuned. This is Wrestle Extra.
Yo, this is Wrestle Extra, the Wrestle Extra After Mania, and I'm your boy ADazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Always joined by my trios team, Mekz, the WrestleManiac, if you will, and the professor that is Gerrard Bonner. This is Wrestle Extra After Mania. This should be good. This should be good. Mekz, I'm gonna go to you first, of course. Literally, this guy, so as we're recording now, has only just landed back from LA 4 hours ago. How he's with us, I don't know. How he's got the energy and the voice, I don't know. But he's here. Mekz, just give us a quick rundown of how your weekend was in LA, WrestleMania weekend. What went down, bro?
It was really something. Like, just to know you were out there and everything from... It's only the first day we got there where we didn't do anything wrestling related, apart from starting our vlog and all of that kind of stuff, which you can see on the Wrestling's channel. From then, Thursday we went to GCW, which was a really fun experience to go to the Bloodsport event, which is obviously a bit different from your typical wrestling show. Ring of Honor was brilliant. Ring of Honor was so good. Unfortunately, Dante, which I'm sure we'll talk about, sustained an injury. But apart from that, such a good show. And then, that took us into WrestleMania day 1, day 2, Monday Night Raw, which was kind of tainted by some news, which I'm sure we'll discuss also. But all in all, wasn't really a good show. But it's just everything. Wale Mania, I don't know if I mentioned that. Wale Mania was great, and that's really, that felt like the hub. That really felt like a sense of we've arrived sort of thing. Even people I bumped into had a lot of good stuff to say about this show and us guys coming together and doing this. I met a lot of, personalities that we speak to online and things like that. Yeah, man. Gareth says WrestleManiac. At WrestleMania, he finished the story.
Well done. Well done.
This is only chapter 1, Gareth, but I appreciate you, bro. Yeah, man, it was something. I'm happy to have got the opportunity.
Amazing. Gerrard, how was your weekend? How did you take in WrestleMania weekend and all the stuff that you got into?
Yeah, it was amazing. I was kind of upset and experiencing FOMO because I wasn't in LA. I thought I'd be there and I wasn't. And of all of the things, the wrestling was crazy. That Ring of Honor show on paper was nuts, and actually it was nuts. Like, I knew it would be crazy. Stand and deliver, which we'll get into all of that. I think the thing that I loved the most coming from this weekend was seeing the Black wrestling media come together in LA. It was special to see all of these people that I've talked to over time meeting with each other, taking pictures, enjoying each other, celebrating each other. That is massive. And, again, the representation, which we talk about a lot here on this show, on screen is important. But the representation in media is equally important because, we keep talking about finishing the story. We get to tell the story, and nobody tells your story like you do. So I'm just excited that we had so many folks that were there, that were present, that were loving on each other. It made this WrestleMania extremely special.
You talk about the wrestling media, and it just gets better every single year now. We can see, so many more people coming into it, meeting and coming together and all that stuff. Wale Mania is probably like the hub for where everyone comes together and stuff like that. And it was nice to have representation from Mekz and the wrestling's guys as well. If anyone hasn't caught any of that, obviously go over to the Wrestling's YouTube channel. You can see all their vlogs and all the stuff that happened over there for them at WrestleMania weekend. But the big story that we want to talk about first, I mean, there's loads of big stories to talk about, but the first one is what Mekz started off with in the intro is, of course, Bianca Belair is still the Raw Women's Champion, defeating Asuka on night 2. It was a tough order to follow, I must say. It was a tough order to follow Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. That match, for me, was the match of the night for night 1. An amazing show. But then at the same time, you know, Bianca and Asuka actually bought it. We're never in doubt. As much as we say about the stuff in terms of her booking, her storylines and blah, blah, blah with Bianca Belair, we are never in doubt that she will bring it in the ring. And that's exactly what they did. And she's come out on top. Now, she has gone 3 years straight, undefeated, 3 singles matches at WrestleMania, 3 wins, a year as Raw Women's Champion. Gerrard, how did that feel when you saw Bianca come out on top and lift that championship again?
It felt extremely fulfilling. You know, we've talked before about many of us have not been happy to the lead up to WrestleMania for Bianca Belair in all 3 of these years. But in every one of those years, she comes through like a champ, you know. And again, I say this a lot in a lot of spaces. I don't know how good of a job most wrestling fans do in appreciating history as it is happening. We'll look back on it years later and go, oh, wow, that was such an incredible time. But to actually acknowledge it while it's happening is something special. Let's just think about this. For all of the talk that happens in the wrestling world about the Charlotte Flairs of the world and whomever other names you want to bring up, nobody can say as a woman that they are undefeated at WrestleMania. We are looking at the new streak. We are looking at the new standard of excellence. Her name is Bianca Belair. While other people are doing other things and, you know, people are unsure of booking, this woman delivers every single time. And for everybody who has issues with writing and creative and all of these other things, I could write the greatest story ever told. But if the body does not align with the story and doesn't support it, it doesn't happen. There is a special skill that Bianca Belair has that I mean, think about this. After she won that match Sunday night, she hopped on a plane to go cross country to be on NBC's The Today Show on the East Coast, and then hop back on a plane to get back over to Monday Night Raw in LA. That's unheard of, doing that type of thing, but that's what she does, and she makes it look easy. We are in the midst of greatness. It's the greatness our parents always wanted. It's the greatness we wanted as kids. This generation gets to see a Bianca Belair as a normal, regular fixture. She's special.
So we know just a few weeks ago that she broke, she broke the record for the longest reigning Black singles champion, defeating, I think it was MVP's record as the United States champion. And now she's, we now know that she's gone past, a year as champion. The next record in her sights is the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion, held by someone who she defeated last year, Becky Lynch. And now obviously she has this streak. Mekz, do you think that both, the Raw Women's Championship record and this new streak, is this the new streak to the level of that Undertaker streak at WrestleMania?
I mean, we all know the Undertaker streak didn't really mean nothing until we're 10 matches in or something. And then people saw, oh yeah, this is something. I think there's definitely I don't know if they want her to beat Becky's streak, because I mean, that's kind of, as well as being the man and all the great stuff Becky's done over the last 2 years, particularly, that's something they may want to keep with Becky. I don't know how much longer this is going to last for Bianca, although you can still see they are very much heavily invested in her. I can just see in the chat now that Gareth has put something in around her entrance. And it's just one of these mind-blowing moments. I'm there at WrestleMania with my brother was there with me, my friends were there with me. These guys don't watch wrestling. And for them, it's like her entrance began, they sat up. It's time to pay attention because the energy in the venue has changed now. You see what I mean? Especially it's happening. We're getting one of those trademark WrestleMania entrances. And it's just someone to kind of really be invested in. You can clearly see why they want to keep her as this face character. As much as we say, develop the character, turn her heel, whatever the case may be, you can see why she is the baby face that is doing all these excellent things, inside, outside the ring, like Gerrard said. Like, she's just a lovable character. And for those guys as well that came with me, they thought that her match was better than Charlotte and Rhea's, just from a more energy. I think for a lot of us that watch wrestling, we knew Charlotte and Rhea was a bit more of a slow burner before we kind of really got to the crescendo of it. But for guys that aren't watching wrestling like that, just said from the beginning, Asuka and Bianca was just pure energy. They loved Asuka's reversals and for everything. And they really enjoyed that match, my friends, that is over the Charlotte one. But these records, there's more for her to achieve. I just don't know if WWE are in on her breaking those records of maybe some of their more favored personnel, let's say.
Very true, very true. I mean, it kind of feels like it's the era of records right now, because we've also got obviously Roman very close to 1,000 days as the undisputed Universal Champion. I believe they put up a thing as well about Gunther being like the third longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. We saw the Usos break the New Day's championship run, and obviously they only had it a year before that or so. It seems to be an era where records are actually now important, whereas before they just happened. They didn't really mean anything to anyone. So I think I'm kind of on the same page as you, Mekz, when you say that they probably will still hold Becky's record for her. How it now ends is the real question. Is there anyone? Can we build anyone? It feels as though Bianca has beat everyone that's there. Rhea's now the SmackDown Women's Champion, so it doesn't seem as though it's going to be her. Is there anyone left, Mekz, to take this title from Bianca right now?
My guess was, they've kept it on her just because they didn't do maybe the best job building the WrestleMania match, and Asuka will get a second go and maybe beat her. I mean, after all, we this coming month, we've got a stadium show coming, so that's gonna be relatively big, the one in Puerto Rico, Backlash. Then of course there was this interesting kind of altercation between Rhea and Bianca on Raw, and I'm thinking, are they doing this whole undisputed thing over here now? Like, I hope not, but that could be interesting. I think if they done something like that, I can see Rhea taking that belt straight from Bianca
all day long,
with just how great she's been booked. So I'm not sure. I'm not confident. I'm just kind of thinking they're gonna take it off her at the next opportunity. But I would ideally like a good story to be in place if that's the case.
For sure. Gareth Mekz mentioned in the chat about Bianca's entrance and how conscious she is about being a role model. Something that she mentioned in a recent interview as well. Also, as well as her saying how important the records that she has broken are as well. But talking about her entrance, obviously she came out with a group of young girls or dancers, all part of like a community project over in LA. But we also knew of this and heard of this tragic news that the little girl that Bianca danced with as well. I think Triple H shared this in the pre-show press conference that this little girl that Bianca danced with unfortunately found out the news of that morning that she'd lost her mother, but yet still came out, and to perform. Gerrard, how important is it for these young girls and just young people in general watching wrestling, but especially young girls watching Bianca Belair? How important is Bianca Belair to this whole thing, to this community?
She's massive. She's so big. Most of us, if we had to think about, okay, who were the Black superstars that we looked at to say, hey, we might want a future in the business. Most of us can't name one. You know, if we did, they weren't the champion. They were just a person that was there, you know. So to have somebody, and then on top of that, it was unheard of for whoever those folks were to actually talk about being Black, to actually do things that would signify that they are Black. You know, I often think about the Nation of Domination and how in the mid 90s, you know, they were frowned upon. And, you know, the promos that Ron Simmons cut then were booed. Now they are cheered. So we were even kind of trained not even to look at Ron Simmons like a role model, you know, even though for many he was the first Black world champion. So I think right now, Bianca Belair, being African-American, being a woman, she checks a lot of boxes, you know, for multiple communities that are still underserved in the world of pro wrestling, whether we're talking about the African-American community, the women, the female community in the world of pro wrestling, both of whom are still fighting for equality in pro wrestling. She checks all of those boxes, and she does it in a way that says, I am unapologetically who I am. I am Black, I am a woman, and I can last here with anybody else on the card. For people to be able to see that and to see that this can be the face of the company, not a face in the company, but the face of the company, makes a massive difference. In years past, they sent, you know, Charlotte Flair to go do the Today Show after Mania. This year, they send Bianca. You know, like those are the kinds of, Bianca ends up going to the red carpets. Bianca goes to the movie premieres. Bianca does the awards presentations. That is a massive statement that's saying a lot without ever saying it. These kids are seeing, I can be this. You know, TWC, the wrestling club, they made their way to WrestleMania, and Bianca is one of their favorite people. So, you know, we've got wrestling clubs that can now go to school and watch these folks and pattern themselves after them. It's we will have to write, and that's why our community is necessary as media personality, because we'll be able to write this story from a place that other outlets can't. We're able to talk about it from a place that other outlets can't. So I can't say enough about how important Bianca Belair is to the culture.
For sure. And shout out to the wrestling club as well. I'm jealous every single time I see anything posted about
we all would have been better students.
I'm just like,
you know what? We saw them. We were sitting on one side in the Ring of Honor show. They were sitting on the other side, and we spotted them, and we were fanning out that we saw them. We're like, oh my god, right. They were their blue sweatshirts, and we're like, oh my god, it's the wrestling club.
They are international, and they don't even know it.
It's crazy how these kids that are probably not even, well, obviously not even teenagers yet, or just about to become teenagers and stuff, and you know, they get to do all of this stuff. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Yes. I absolutely love the wrestling club. I honestly think it's like the best thing in wrestling right now. Literally the best thing in wrestling right now. Going back to Mania, we want to talk about the representation, but we were underrepresented, unfortunately, because by not his own circumstances, unforeseen circumstances, all the rest of it, Bobby Lashley was left out of WrestleMania. Now, for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, we had this dream, Martin Luther King style. We had a dream that somehow Bobby Lashley would be involved in WrestleMania. Hoping it was going to be through the Brock Omos match, or expecting to be in that way, or just in any other way. Gerrard, I'm going to come to you because this was your specific dream. How do you feel about this whole thing now with Lashley winning this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on SmackDown, the SmackDown before Mania, but yet having no match, but coming out just to show off his big Andre trophy?
We've witnessed many a tragedy here in the wrestling world over time. Things that should have been that didn't exactly happen. Like we should have seen Sting versus The Undertaker at some point at a WrestleMania. We should have seen Hogan and Flair at a WrestleMania. I mean, things that should have happened. We should have saw The Rock and Roman Reigns, right? Things we should have seen happen. And we should have seen Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. And if not that, Bobby Lashley and anybody at WrestleMania. Right. So what bothers me here is we had 2 full nights. We had enough time for The Miz to be a host and have not 1, but 2 matches at WrestleMania. We had enough time to bring back Shane McMahon, whose body couldn't even hold him up. Like, are you kidding me right now? You have the Almighty come out and he's treated like, you know how on those award shows they have in awards presented earlier tonight? That's how he was treated. That is exactly how Bobby Lashley, your 2-time WWE champion, the guy who welcomed fans back after a pandemic, is treated like awards that were handed out before the program was televised. What kind of foolishness is this? You mean to tell me we didn't have enough? You couldn't have at least even given him the match against The Miz? I mean, my God, Snoop Dogg saved the world. Snoop Dogg. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. Yes, he's from LA, but good Lord, we get Snoop Dogg, but we don't get Bobby Lashley. What is really going on around here? So I don't have a lot of issues with WrestleMania, but this is a glaring one because I'm just like, we had time for all of this. We made time for great sponsors. I mean, they gave lots of money, but Bobby Lashley is a national treasure. Bobby Lashley is that guy. I mean, like, we're wasting his time at this point if we're just giving him, nice gowns and trophies before the show ever starts. To put this man on the biggest WrestleMania ever, don't have him walk out in street clothes just waving and here's my trophy, guys. I won the battle royal that hasn't meant anything in 6 years, but here I am. Nah, man, that if I were Lashley, I would have tore that whole place up. Just me.
I mean, for me, it was like, what the hell is going on? And I thought to myself before Raw started yesterday, I was just like, why did they not do a thing where he came out and was just vexed and all that kind of stuff? And we kind of got that on Raw, backstage. He was doing the whole, it's not good enough and blah, blah, blah. And then he was approached by, the big Australian, Bronson Reed. And you're just like, and then he has a match with a squash match of all things as well, with Mustafa Ali. Mekz, what? How do you feel about what's going on here with Lashley?
You know why it's dead, yeah? Obviously, you've just mentioned Raw, but his whole shtick from the minute we kind of gathered this Bray Wyatt stuff wasn't happening was, I am available on Saturday and Sunday at WrestleMania, right? They put him in the Battle Royal on Friday. Cool, he won it. That's the minimum expectation because no one else in there should be beating him. You have the segment at WrestleMania where he comes up with the trophy. Incorrect. That segment should have been him coming out with the mic saying, I'm available. Yeah, I'd won this on Friday. I am still available. Bring me someone now. Maybe you can do a little thing where security push him to the back and everything. At least then he's kind of made an impact, which follows on from the initial story. He was trying to say that I'm available on Saturday and Sunday. Then, like Gerrard said, we've had segments with The Miz of Snoop Dogg putting The Miz into matches. You called back Pat McAfee. You called back Shane McMahon. When this man that is demanding a match, you could have at least given him one of these joke segments to just flog Miz for 5 minutes and then pin him. Like, then we
would have been okay with that.
Yeah, we would have been okay with that. Like, it's not where we want to see him, but it's better than a man that comes in, has a loud pop, thanks the crowd, and then his knee buckles after 2 minutes. You see what I mean? Like it's and the Pat McAfee stuff. It's like we actually knew the whole spots that he was gonna do, the whole run and jump on the turnbuckle, the backflip. Oh my god, did I do that? Like we've seen this since NXT now. Like I don't know. Pat McAfee is a very good commentator, and maybe the commentary teams are just full right now and they don't have somewhere to put him. But I don't think he should be necessarily stealing a position from a talent. You know, there was even LA Knight that people wanted to see at WrestleMania. And if Pat McAfee shouldn't be stealing a position, the Lord knows Shane McMahon should definitely be nowhere near WrestleMania. So I don't know how we've missed the trick and then coming out on Raw saying I didn't get this, that, and the other. Yeah, Bobby, you've missed the weekend. Like it's too late. Like
it's come and gone.
Yeah,
it's come and gone. On lighter news. In better news, Stand and Deliver, of course, happened as well on the Saturday before Mania. We saw Wesley defend his championship in a great match against 4 other men. And, of course, we saw him finally become the NXT champion. Mekz, how did you find the coronation, the match of Carmelo Hayes versus Bron Breakker?
I thought it was very good, and you know he got the whole grandioso entrance, so that kind of tells you one thing, that you know it's coming home, and it's about time. Carmelo Hayes is definitely, you know, who you can see NXT are now shifting their attention to. They heavily invested in Bron Breakker at the start of 2.0. Probably has overstayed his welcome. Maybe not by his fault, but yeah, it's definitely time for a shift of the guard. And now we're here with Carmelo and Trick. The way it happened, I'm still questioning a bit. Obviously, we saw Trick get involved, and then you know Carmelo won, which I thought is fine because ultimately these two have been a bit heelish all this time. But then it's like Bron kind of doing the honorable thing and handing him the title and holding up his hand. I was like, I'm a bit confused here. I will say that I haven't finished watching NXT.
You should finish.
Yeah, so that I'm sure.
I don't want to give that away if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, that will explain some things. I'm actually just in the middle of watching Wesley and Axiom. But yeah, I know the finish is gonna come. Yeah, so. Yeah, maybe that will explain, you know, because I was thinking, why is Bron so happy to pass over this title if he ultimately got cheated out of it? But yeah, we'll see what the rest of NXT is saying. But yeah, it's more than time for this change, and yeah, I'm looking forward to what it looks like with Carmelo at the helm.
Gerrard, how are your feelings about the forward movement of Carmelo Hayes?
You know, we're all church kids to some degree. So for those who aren't, I apologize for what I'm about to say. But this was the equivalent to a great convocation. And I consider NXT to be our massive youth service. So we've got a new youth pastor. Our youth pastor's name is Carmelo Hayes. He totally deserved to be elevated, and elevated he was in a mighty, mighty way. Now, here's what's intriguing about all of this. He comes into this, he was kind of a heel, but then he's kind of a face, and then they kind of do heelish stuff, and he's kind of doing face-ish stuff, and we don't care. We don't care how you get in there. We voted you in. Go on and get in your role, sir. And he did that, and we're happy. Matter of fact, I think the way that they went about it was to kind of try to establish, we're trying to still keep him as a heel, sort of, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So we gladly welcome Youth Pastor Hayes to his new role. He sorely deserves it. We've been waiting for it. He's been the best preacher in the house the whole time anyway. So we just we sat through the term. Finish your term, Mr. Breakker. And now you can go on to whatever your greener pastures are. We are very, very happy for Carmelo Hayes. This was the right thing. It was the only thing. I think we would have rioted if Carmelo Hayes did not walk out of Stand and Deliver as the NXT champion. It would have been pure chaos. So it was the right move. NXT is getting it right. They're absolutely getting it right, and definitely the right move.
It's actually perfect metaphor for you to call Carmelo the youth pastor, because as we mentioned the wrestling club, he is literally their favorite guy and
Totally
has been a bit of an ambassador for the wrestling club as well.
That's right.
So youth pastor Hayes, I'm definitely gonna have to use that somewhere on my page. Have to. It's phenomenal to see him finally where we should be. Some may feel as though it took too long or it should have happened earlier, but I think in the way that it's been done almost perfectly. They kept the two of them away from each other for so long. And I think Mekz mentioned it on the last show, if not two weeks ago, that with both guys, it was time for them to eventually come together. It would have been too early to put it on Hayes because there wouldn't have been anyone else. And all that kind of stuff. So now that we have Hayes there now, with the newer guys from NXT UK coming in, guys like Dragon Lee coming in, other people being able to be raise their game, it now looks like a really nice NXT. And we, as we said before, there are a few guys we could mention who could challenge him. Beat him, that's another question, but definitely challenge him and make his reign, credible in in a few years' time or during the reign. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Carmelo Hayes. Just to quickly talk about Wesley. Sorry, go on, Mekz.
I was just going to say the field of names that you mentioned, as well as I'm assuming some people that with the current change up top in WWE, we're going to see probably permanently drop down to to NXT. True. Like the technical ability of that scene is gone up.
Yes.
Like when Braun Breaker became champion, they were flirting with guys like Von Wagner and stuff. And no disrespect to him, but them man were literally wearing security uniforms the week before, and now all of a sudden they were thrusted into a position of a main event. So the Carmelo, we obviously know he's got the ability, but now his challenges are really going to, they're going to have some excellent dance matches, if you like, at that top level of NXT over the next few months.
It's going to be very interesting. Talking of those technical wrestlers, I was going to say, like, just really quickly on Wesley, the match that he had, and then the matches following on NXT last night with some of the guys that were involved in that match. So obviously, Wesley went against Axiom. You had Dragon Lee versus Nathan Fraser. Both matches, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I'm very excited to see what they do. You had Noam Dar coming in as well with his Heritage Cup. That is going to prove to be something very, very exciting in NXT. Moving back to the WWE, we want to talk about the biggest news in the wrestling world. Literally the day after Mania, like you couldn't get any bigger than this. I mean, I guess it's the perfect day to make this type of news. Of course, we now know that the WWE has been sold to the big company called Endeavor. Endeavor also
wait a minute. You said the biggest news and you didn't mention Omos. Come on. Come on. What's going on here, guys? What's going on here? Let's not forget our brother Omos.
And all of the Homo sapiens out there. Oh my God. Wow.
Wow. Almost opened night 2 of WrestleMania.
He did.
You know what?
He did.
You know what? And big shout out to Omos for what he did, because he did do what he needed to do. It was a tragedy that he didn't win, but at the same time, I think we're kind of getting this whole thing of the reemergence of Brock, and we're probably going to see him a few times over the next few months or however long it is. But shout out to our Nigerian brother Omos for doing what he did. But going back to the actual big news, not the 7 foot tall big news, not the 7 foot tall big news, the actual big news.
That was so good.
Homo sapiens, I tried.
Yes.
Yeah, homophobia.
Oh, this is so good.
WWE have sold to Endeavor. Endeavor owns a number of companies, but the one that everyone is looking at is UFC, of course. But they're also, on top of that, they are looking to merge both WWE and the UFC under one new name, yet to be named. Gerrard, what you have a very kind of close eye on this one and what's happening there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this news? What does this look like? Will it change the WWE? And of course, as well, we know that from what we saw at the the Raw after Mania, that Vince McMahon is kind of now involved again. Gerrard, just give us more on this big scoop.
So, of course, this is massive news. Endeavor purchasing the WWE. You know, when we came into the top of the year, Vince McMahon made his way back as the executive chair of the board. Stephanie McMahon left. Then the news started going around about a potential sale, and everybody got up in arms because they thought the Saudis were buying the WWE. Obviously, that was not the case. But what was happening was Endeavor was positioning itself to purchase WWE. So a couple of things to make sure people are clear on. It is not a merger between the WWE and the UFC. What is happening is WWE and UFC will now be under this new parent company. This parent company has not been named yet, but it is from Endeavor, obviously. It will feature a mixture of folks from Endeavor, obviously folks from WWE. The company itself will have, money coming in from Endeavor, like 51%, and then 49% is coming from the stockholders of WWE. What's really interesting about this is, will this change WWE? It will not, from the perspective of WWE will still be WWE. UFC is still UFC. It's kind of like, if you have a child and then you adopt a child, they don't become one child. They're two children under the same parent. That's what we've got here with WWE and UFC. Now, what people really should be paying attention to is this. Vince McMahon did this interview on CNBC. And in the interview, he was asked, will you still be part of creative? And he said, yes and no. Yes, at a high level. No, I won't be in the weeds. But then people saw what happened on Raw, and everybody's like, Vince is back at creative, et cetera, et cetera. Here's why I genuinely don't believe Vince McMahon will be in creative for WWE. Because his position as the executive chairman of this new, yet-to-be-named company actually puts him over both WWE and UFC, which means he'll probably be very interested in playing with his new toy, the UFC. I'm very interested to see how Dana White is going to react, as Dana White will still be president of the UFC. Nick Khan is still president of the WWE, but Vince, in essence, is the executive chairman of the parent company of both. So with him having to make decisions at that level, he's not going to have the time, energy, or space to dedicate to be involved in the week-to-week creative of WWE. If he is, he's doing that at the expense of this new parent company who is over both of them, and I don't think that'll go very well. So I'm because the wrestling world's going crazy right now, and I kind of want to help people go, hold on a second, breathe. This is the same reaction we had 3 months ago when we heard that the Saudis were buying WWE. People went off. People went crazy. Vince, if you just look at what has actually happened, there is no way in the world that Vince McMahon will have the kind of time, effort, or energy to be involved in the weekly creative of WWE if you are now responsible for high-level decisions involving WWE and UFC. You can't favor one over the other. So from where I sit, I'm like, let's just kind of let this simmer for a bit. Let's watch for a few weeks and see what actually happens, because the WWE fans have been very, very vocal. I think, Ariel Emanuel, who is the CEO of Endeavor and who will be the CEO of this new parent company, will be looking obviously at what the WWE has accomplished, certainly in the last year, and all of the increase in numbers, the success of WrestleMania, the $1 billion year. All of that has to be attributed to what Triple H has done as chief creative officer since July, right? All of that. You can't ignore that. You can't ignore the fact that This WrestleMania is the greatest WrestleMania in terms of finances, in terms of sponsorships. Every metric, this WrestleMania beat out everything Vince ever did. So as a business person, you have to start asking yourself the question, okay, what makes sense here? And I'm intrigued because this is the first time that Vince McMahon will have a boss. So how will Vince McMahon behave with a boss? This is why I'm saying he's got bigger fish to fry than WWE creative. As wrestling fans, most of us are all we're looking at is WWE creative. But we need to ask some other questions. Like, for instance, how will he have time to manage creative and have a boss and have somebody to answer to? You know, ultimately, the buck doesn't stop with Vince McMahon. It's not a partnership. Vince is not the CEO of this new company. He's the executive chairman. The CEO is Ariel Emanuel. That's something to consider. And the UFC is actually worth more than the WWE, which is a crazy thought, even though the WWE fan base is almost twice the size of the UFC fan base. So that's what's going on. I just want to have fans, hey, relax, take a chill pill, don't go off the deep end, breathe. I know the Raw after Mania was highly disappointing. I think we all can agree on that. But that's not necessarily a statement that Vince McMahon is back in charge of creative, because this new deal he's just signed, if he's that deep into the weeds, he can't possibly be the executive chairman effectively over these two companies.
For me, there are two things to consider, kind of both ends of the stick kind of thing. So you're right in saying, you know, there's this chance of him not having enough time to be there week to week and rip up scripts on Raw and redo everything and give us the worst Raw after Mania we've seen in a while. But you also had that same thing, or we have that same argument with Tony Khan, for example, who probably is kind of wearing himself too thin in trying to book both AEW and ROH. And we've seen kind of how that's played out. As much as ROH has kind of improved over the last month because it's own show and blah, 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 you know, we still have our issues over in AEW. The other thing is as well, though, that, you know, for me, this is the first time Vince has a boss on paper. But to me, I always felt as though some of the things that Vince was doing on the weekly shows had a lot to do with the guys in charge of the TV deals. So the guys, you know what I mean, trying to, appease those guys like Fox and whoever else it is or has been in the past. So there's still some confusion. There's still some argument in this whole thing. Is he going to be there all the time? Is he going to still, have his hand in all of this stuff? Is he going to be distracted by UFC and all that kind of stuff? So, but at the same time, for me, it is definitely kind of a wait and see. I'm not thinking, all right, it's all over now and, and whatnot. I do feel, though, the news of Jay White deciding not to go to WWE, I think he felt as though, right, nah, I'm not going back. I'm not going there because he's back. Mekz, what do you think about this whole situation? How are you feeling about the return of the Mac?
For me, it's very it's hard because for me, like, I've never been someone to care about ratings and all this other stuff that's necessarily happening backstage, but it's the morale that's annoying me, or the reported morale of the wrestlers that are there, not being now able to get talents like you mentioned, Jay White, because it's like, I don't want to work for him. We've had in the last few months, the elite guys over in AEW that may be looking to jump ship, although I don't think there's much in that, and that if anything, they're using that as a tool to negotiate better contracts for themselves. They have two eyes and a brain. They're not going to come to WWE if they think that this guy's back. And just generally, people that are there not being booked properly, and he hasn't favored people he's got rid of that Triple H has brought back, and now they're probably thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me now? And ultimately, someone that's committed all the sins that Vince McMahon has committed as well, like, you don't necessarily want to work for from a moral standpoint. So yeah, for me, it's just yeah, I don't know these people, I don't know these wrestlers, but I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, they're probably not in the best mind frame right now. Even as fans, for us, there's a lot of uncertainty with a lot of unanswered questions. I can imagine for them, it's pretty much the same thing. Triple H came out and started Raw with a whole rah speech, and then Raw proceeded to be. I mean, you know what? I really like the he said thank you to, you know, these people that do work behind the scenes that we don't get the credit.
Yeah,
I really did like that, but then the whole thing of we're not going anywhere, and then the show proceeded to develop into what it proceeded to develop into, with so many changes on the fly, some that we've even seen, some that we've heard of. Like, I really just didn't know what that was about. And I was saying this morning, like, I don't know what it is with these general managers and huge announcements, but they just need to stop it. Right. Like, everyone just needs to stop it.
Right.
But yeah, it's for me, it's just more from the wrestler's point of view, and how do we make sure that, you know, the people that are bringing us the entertainment are looked after and are ready to go each week and feel good about who they're working for and what they're doing. So yeah, we just want to clear up some things, I guess.
It's going to be very interesting, very intriguing. For me, my thing that I'm going to be watching is just, if so, because it's near impossible unless you're literally there. But as Mekz was talking about, the morale of wrestlers, the storylines and the way certain people are going to be booked from now on, will it change massively? Obviously, we've seen Sami Zayn go from wrestling Johnny Knoxville in that silly match last year to main event in night one of WrestleMania, and him becoming as big as he has. And that was literally off the back of Triple H being in charge. You know, he even mentioned before in an interview that he did that, you know, there was this whole thing of him not being allowed to be in the same picture as Roman Reigns until Triple H came and he was with him every single week. Right. So it's stuff like that that makes you think, right, okay, so what's going to happen from here? I don't want to be, you know, one of those fans who have now kind of like just think, oh, forget it, it's going to go back to this, that, and whatever else. It's a wait and see. But at the same time, for me, I know at the same time, I'm still thinking it could still actually go any way. You know, it can go anyway. So I don't know. I don't know. Vince is back with a mustache. And you know,
we should have more questions about the mustache and the dyed eyebrows than anything else. That's what we really should have questions about. But I will say this, though. I think we should allow history to teach us, recent history to teach us some things. Again, first of the year, the wrestling world was in complete shambles. Everybody had think pieces on the Saudis buying the WWE. Like, that was the talk. And what happened from there is amazing, because WWE was able to quell that noise and ramp up what we saw on television so well until we stopped talking about the sales and we talked about the bloodline and Sami Zayn and everything connected to that for 3 solid months. While sales stuff behind the scenes was actually happening with somebody other than the Saudis. So I'm allowing right now, before I go crazy, I'm allowing recent history to kind of inform, hey, let's just give this some time. I'm sure that there have been meetings and the like to talk about what happened on Raw after Mania. I'm sure about that. I also think about this, you know, with all of the documentaries and things that were out there about how WWE beat WCW, one of the ways that happened was because WCW kept rewriting the show as the show was happening. So I can't imagine that WWE would allow itself to make the same types of tactical errors that ultimately cost WCW. So that's where my level of confidence is that if indeed there were rewrites, and certainly there's no denying this show was awkward Monday night. No denying that. There were things that were happening. You know, how in the world we leave with Seth Rollins singing, we come back to him singing and he walks out. Like, things clearly weren't making sense. There's no doubt about that. But I don't believe that will be the future trajectory of WWE, because those are the same mistakes that were made by a company that they ultimately put out of business. So, and there's too much money on the line. 9.3 billion. And that's the piece that, so I say this carefully. I know there are going to be some people who say, I don't want to work at WWE anymore because Vince McMahon is there. Let me remind you of something, friends. $9.3 billion. The UFC, $12.1 billion. The WWE is about to be parented by a $21 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
They've got money to pay you.
Mm.
Consider that, my friends. Before you go off the deep end saying, I hate WWE, I don't want to work there, blah, blah, blah. They're going to have resources that no other wrestling company in the world is going to have access to. And it's not just the WWE's resources. Because my brother is the UFC, I got access to those resources too. So, everybody just calm down. We're going to be all right. There's way too much money on the line here for them to make ridiculous errors. Way too much. And the media rights conversation, which is what was supposed to foster this whole sales situation in the first place, those still have to happen. And Endeavor are masters of those. So WWE is about to be in an amazing position. Don't jump ship just yet.
I think people need to also understand the level that Endeavor is actually at, because they are a talent agency. They own so many companies, are partnered with so many other companies. It's actually them that that Bianca Belair signed to when
WME
Endeavor. Exactly. Endeavor owns that company, and the amount of film stars and all the rest of it under that. And
they work with Premier League. They work with Major League Soccer. They handled the Olympics. Like this is other level money. Right? Yeah. Like this is not wrestling money. This is ridiculous money. Like they don't make these kinds of mistakes, folks. Let's breathe. Let's pay our $9.99 a month and be okay. We're all right.
And this is why my confidence in Endeavor is more so of, right, we've done so and so with UFC. We've built them up to where they are now. The decisions that they make have to make sense. There is no way they can overlook what Triple H has done in this last 6-7 months or however long it's been now, and then just say, "No, look, go away. Vince is back." Putting him, I'm confident that that doesn't happen. I'm confident. I'm praying that doesn't happen. But just to move away from this just a little bit, and something that Mekz mentioned very early on in the show today, he was fortunate to be at the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor show, an absolutely crazy show. But unfortunately, we saw the incident with Dante Martin, a crazy spot with him taking a
destroyer
destroyer from Penta onto like 2, 4, 5, 10 tables, and somehow his leg being broken in the incident. It was shocking. I've seen it from another angle. It is shocking. Mekz, what was the atmosphere like in the room when that happened? Did you guys notice it straight away? Was it obvious? What was everyone like when that happened?
Truth be told, the atmosphere didn't kind of die because that match was what that match was. It was just absolutely crazy. There was other stuff to look at. Once you saw the Canadian Destroyer, I think Matt Taven jumped in the ring with Ray Phoenix. But amongst, obviously, when a big spot like that is happening, the refs and everyone is nearby just to kind of see it through and help if need be. They knew something went wrong immediately. And whatever taper and stuff that you guys have seen circulated on the internet, or if you watch the show on Fight or whatever, you would have seen like the panic. Like they're all, they go to their pockets or where their walkie-talkie things are, and they're all like, more help, this, that, and the other. Everyone starts running out from everywhere. Darius was there. Darius was beating the floor because he could, he's got 2 eyes. He can see what's happening to his brother. And they just obviously opened up the barrier at just about the corner where he fell and just kind of got him out on the gurney relatively quickly. It's a real shame because, this is, we were just here saying last week or so that this should be their tag division that, they should go on and thrive in, and maybe they'll win this kind of brother versus brother ladder match. And then this happens, yet another setback for them. And it's not Darius this time, it's Dante, the guy that's been carrying the fort. You see what I mean? On his back, on his shoulders, while his brother's been out. So it's just another annoying setback. I guess the next conversation that people have is this completely necessary and stuff like that? But you'll be lying to yourself if you tune into a match like this and didn't expect to see something like that. Just God willing that, these moves often get pulled off without any serious injury. But this is what we want from them. We're lying if we say otherwise. It's just very unfortunate. This is, the hazards of the games we play. But hopefully he gets better sooner rather than later.
And that's the interesting thing, I've seen all of these comments of, this is why we shouldn't be doing so and so, and even down to, this is why it's better to watch WWE because they don't do stuff as bad as. I'm like, because full well, if nothing went wrong, you'd be talking about this like it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Gerrard, how are your thoughts about like this type of reaction to these types of things when you see that on Twitter like so often?
God bless the internet wrestling community. I mean, we pick and choose the things that we want to be mad at, and as I'm thinking about that move and that match, I hearken back to immediately everybody's favorite WrestleMania 17, when we're watching that TLC match where, there's this, all the crazy spots that happen there, a DDT from the top of one ladder onto the guy from another ladder. And here it is. That could have been tragic. You know what I mean? But once and they kept upping the bar. They kept raising the bar. There was one point during that match where Jeff Hardy tried to step across 3 ladders to get over to and he fell off of one. These are the kinds of hazards that can happen. They are dangerous matches. And so, I think people have to understand, again, this is why we have to respect these athletes so much, because they literally put life and limb on the line for our entertainment. That's purely for our entertainment. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's crazy. And again, we'll get mad at that, but we'll love Vikingo, right? And all the craziness he does. I mean, this man, same weekend, the man did a destroyer from the top rope on Speedball Mike Bailey, to the outside. Are you kidding me? So we have to really decide, okay, are we going to level the playing field and be mad at the same things, or be good with the same things? Because there's danger happening all around the wrestling world, just so that people will get noticed.
For real. The other thing that happened on that show, of course, is Athena retaining her AEW Women's Championship. We had, I certainly did. Wasn't sure whether the match was going to happen at Supercard of Honor. But what actually happened was she had a match on ROH to determine who would then face the challenger at Supercard of Honor. Of course, she's come out on top of both of them. Again, we asked the question. It's a question we ask quite often and almost every week. But what's now next for Athena? Is there anyone coming biting at her heels at the moment, or will she kind of just carry on and coast for a little bit and then we'll get some more?
Athena, yeah, I for one owe her an apology, because when she signed to AEW, I was less than impressed with what I was seeing. I said, what happened to Ember Moon? What's going on here? And I know they booked her a bit funny with the Jade stuff. Jade basically squashed her, got rid of her, and she kind of went into obscurity. This is who I expected to see.
Yes,
the attitude, the everything, the performance in that match with Yuka was just so good throughout. And you asked the question, Adrian, as to who is next. I don't know if you guys saw this or how many people have caught this. Trinity was in the crowd. Trinity was
I
in the
didn't
crowd.
realize she was in the crowd.
I've seen it.
She was front row in the crowd.
I've seen the video.
Really?
Yeah.
But on the side of the hard camera, so like under the hard camera.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't have seen her.
But
I guess
I must say, there is a video that I saw because I didn't know she was there at all, and I've seen a video where it was literally, I must be a fan, literally straight at Trinity, looking up at Athena in disgust, like,
wow.
So what? I don't care. And all of that. So it's like,
and we saw that, like, very much when Athena was celebrating, there was a no sell from Trinity, like, who are you, sort of thing. Like, so that I don't know if she's coming in at WrestleMania, which I'm sure you guys have seen. She said that, you know, I'm not finished yet.
Not finished yet.
That was her last words. She passed over the mic. We've heard about this new name change of Trinity Star. This might be her destination.
Trinity Star in Ring of Honor.
I feel like I was somewhere. I don't know. I may have been here when people were asking what's next for Trinity, and I said Ring of Honor.
It was here.
I said Ring of Honor because for me, what Ring of Honor is doing right now is special. It is special. The talent, the matches, the consistency. And I'm telling you, if you really want to up your game, because I don't want to sound too controversial, but I still don't feel like Trinity was ever taken seriously as a wrestler. I feel like people, they respected her personality. She was always nice. She was fun-loving. She felt the glow. She was great for merch, but they never respected her as a wrestler. And I feel like if there's anything left for her to prove, it's for her to prove that I can be taken seriously as a wrestler.
Very true.
And as strange as this sounds, you have a better chance of doing that in Ring of Honor in their women's division than you do in AEW's women's division.
Definitely right now.
So for me, it's the move to go to Ring of Honor. I don't think she'd go to Japan just because there'd be the expectation for her to either team with Mercedes or fight Mercedes. She doesn't get to be the woman with Mercedes there. She does potentially at Ring of Honor.
True. It's gonna be very, very interesting. Guys, on that note, this has been our show. You are watching Wrestle Extra on the WrestleMania UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell when this guy Mekz puts out all of his reactions, news, vlogs from Mania, and all the other good stuff that he does. Of course, you can follow him at WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram, WrestleManiac UK on Twitter, and also follow this guy, Gerrard Bonner, everywhere on Bonafide, and also his own show, The Faction Show, as well as WWT Live, which I make my every now and again appearance on there.
Yes, sir.
Too. And guys, you can follow me, of course, ADazzle on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again next week.
Yeah.